Hey guys, welcome to the channel if you're new. Welcome back if you're a subscriber. Special thanks to all of my patrons. My name's Neil, and today we are watching 2001: A Space Odyssey. I'm almost embarrassed to admit that I have not yet seen this entire movie, guys. I've certainly seen scenes. I feel like even back in high school, we started watching this but didn't get all the way through it, or I forget, but I have never sat through an entire screening of this movie, and it's celebrated as such an epic achievement, certainly of the time, and it remains pretty iconic to this day. It's Stanley Kubrick, for whatever reason, I have not seen, Kubrick's got a smaller filmography than you might think on first impression. Second, he didn't do too much past the 80s. Third, for whatever reason, maybe because of those first two, there aren't a lot of Kubrick films that I've actually seen completely. Even though you're aware of almost all of them, and there's classic scenes that you can quote even if you've never seen that movie. I know lines from Spartacus, even though I've never seen it. I have never seen all of The Shining, even though I know so much imagery from that movie. In fact, I think the only Kubrick films that I have seen in totality prior to last week, don't forget last week, guys, I saw Full Metal Jacket for the very first time. I think the only Kubrick films I had seen in entirety before last week were A Clockwork Orange, Dr. Strangelove, and Eyes Wide Shut. And that leaves some huge gaps, obviously. I've never seen Barry Lyndon, or Paths of Glory, or Spartacus, or Lolita, or 2001: A Space Odyssey. So maybe I need to start working my way through that. That's a question for another day. What I do know is today we need to watch 2001. Now, what do I know about this movie? I know it's an Arthur C. Clarke screenplay. It's a Stanley Kubrick directed film. The visuals are supposed to be insane, especially when you consider that this was made in 1968. There's no CGI. This is all in-camera special effects. The camera effects that were invented or perfected for this, I think, were mind-blowing in the day, and when you look at them now, they're almost a lost art, I think. But let's save the deep discussion of all of that till afterwards, when I can really take a look at them, appreciate them for what they are, and then really maybe add some credible discussion to that at the end. Story-wise, I'm not exactly sure. I know there's an evil computer. I know that there's a scene with chimpanzees banging bones about, but I really don't know how that relates to this being a space odyssey. Is this actually the Odyssey in space, like Homer's Odyssey, or are we using Odyssey in the looser term of this just being an epic voyage? I don't know. I really don't know the plot at all. Is plot even the important part of this movie, or is it a movie that is much more a thought experiment, or focused on the visuals and the technicalities of great filmmaking, without necessarily being about a great story? I don't know. I shouldn't hypothesize too much, because I'll just form expectations that'll probably end up being broken. So, let's jump into it, guys. This is 2001: A Space Odyssey, released in 1968 by Stanley Kubrick. So far, just a black screen. This helps with the edit. Man, can you imagine being in the theater for this? No director would have the balls to do this right now, modern day. Yeah, let's just start with 3 minutes of mood music. You know when you stare at a screen long enough and it's not changing, you start to see changes in it? Almost like an optical illusion. You think you see light patches or moving patches or... Okay. Not the classic MGM roaring lion logo. These notes I know. Moon, Earth, Sun. Nice. I'll sync that up in post. The dawn of man. Are we supposed to be in a bunch of different places? All these jumping landscapes from one to the next. It's interesting. Nice. Oh, human skeleton. This feels a lot like Joshua Tree in Southern California. Or at least some of these shots do. Others feel somewhere else entirely. Because those animals are tapir, which I thought were South American. But this is not a South American landscape. This is like African or American Southwest. I don't know what I'm supposed to make of all of this. Whoa! Yeah, this is Africa. Unless that was a jaguar, though I guess it looks like a leopard, but I don't think I should be thinking about this stuff, but this is where my head's going. Where are we? Oh, those are bad early humans. It's pretty much like Parliament. So the new group came in and stole the water hole. Okay. Okay, we're definitely in Africa, but the tapir was throwing me, and the landscape was throwing me. Although this is a little bit like Swakopmund in Namibia as well. It's just those super eroded boulders that look very Flintstone-y. It's a unique look. That's why I thought Joshua Tree. This was 1968. When did the first Planet of the Apes come out? I'm trying to figure out the facial prosthetics, because they have like articulated lips. Oh. Music's kicking in. Oh. What the heck? It doesn't even look like it's part of the scene. It almost looks like a digital effect, although it's clearly there. It's just, wow, so singular. This foreground shadow looks just like a profile of one of the early men. I'm going to call them that instead of apes. But it's an interesting framing choice. Yeah. You gonna touch it? You gonna touch it? Yeah, smell it. Okay, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. Is this the start of a religion or something, or? They're gonna worship this thing, aren't they? What are we calling it? An obelisk? Even though it's a little irregular at the top? Oh. Oh. It pointed to the stars. What does that mean? I don't know. Is it still there? Is he having a thought? It looks like he's having a thought. Oh, and we're getting the music too. Did he just figure out weapons? He just figured out a weapon. Wow. That's some crazy imagery. Well, they've become meat eaters. We haven't seen any evidence of that yet. And they've all got their own weapon. They've all got a bone. See, those are real chimps. Oh, now it's going to be more than just shouting at one another. Oh, these guys don't have bone technology yet, do they? They're standing taller, too. This is like key moment in evolution. Oh. The first moment of... Oh. There we go. Murder. That tracking shot of the bone might be the first moving shot we've had all movie so far. Kubrick really loves his static shots. So presumably this takes place in 2001. And I don't think we've had a proper line of dialogue yet. Pen and... See, I know this shot because I know how this special effect was done. There's a pane of glass being held on both sides out of frame with that pen attached to it. And it's just being manipulated. It's just a really clean piece of glass. I guess the idea of a TV screen in the back of a plane seat was pretty frickin' novel in 1968. I like the design of this ship, though. Very pretty. Oh, man. They had some fun with miniatures and multiple exposures on this one. So is this space station still being built, I'm assuming? Half of one ring is just a frame right now. Oh, almost that entire second ring, rather. Just the spokes, looks like, are in place. Or maybe it's not supposed to be completed. So was he the only passenger on that flight?
You are sounding level.
Oh, here he is. Oh, hello, Dr. How are you? Sorry, I'm late. That's quite all right.
It's the Space Hilton.
Let's see, last June? Yeah, about 8 months.
Did they actually build these sets to be curved, or is this a trick of the camera?
Oh, wait a minute. Bye-bye. Happy birthday.
That's pretty pricey. I know they meant to make that feel really cheap, but you can FaceTime for free.
Nice to see you.
Hey, Wood, what a wonderful surprise to meet.
Perhaps you can clear up the great big mystery about what has been going on up there.
I'm afraid I don't know what you mean.
Quite a serious epidemic has broken out at Crave's. Something apparently of an unknown origin.
Uh-oh. Viral outbreak on the moon? That's not a good thing. What does Haywood do? What's his specialty?
I don't know, but I'm really not at liberty to discuss this.
Is he a doctor? Medical doctor?
Don't forget, you got a standing invitation if you ever get to the States.
No, of course not. Grigori and I will look forward to seeing you.
It's been a pleasure meeting you all.
And you have to remember, I guess, in '68, the fact that, like, American and Russian scientists are just hanging out and friendly and know each other's families and stuff is pretty freaking novel. And off to the moon. What's going on at Clavius? I like that we get there's a mystery, a story. Definitely different pacing from what we're used to here in the 21st century, though. So much invested into the look of these sets. Is he the only passenger? That's what I find amazing. Liquipax. You just basically get a bunch of different smoothies. And... we got a rotating set. That's fun. That's a lot of fun. All these just crazy choreographed moves. Doesn't seem the most convenient way to eat a meal. Well, but I guess if gravity's an issue, 10 steps to the zero gravity toilet. So is this the guy's first time making the trip? I thought he seemed more regular on this route. I wonder if all these moon images are just really good, high-resolution film of the actual moon, or whether they built anything model-like for this. Does that intentionally look a bit like a face? A robot skull? Or is that just a coincidence? Yeah, Kubrick takes so much time composing his frame. Like, every single shot is like precise geometrically. It all just feels so deliberate. What I find interesting is there's soundtrack, obviously, but there's zero audio. There's no ambient noise from the scene. So the question is Kubrick trying to get across the point that there's no noise in space? Or is he just uninterested in exploring that, and he'd rather play this classical music? So I know there's some gravity on the moon, but this is very clearly Earth gravity-esque. So is there simulated gravity on this base?
Congratulations on your discovery, which may well prove to be among the most significant in the history of science.
What is it? That doesn't sound like a virus.
However, I accept the need for absolute secrecy in this. And I hope you will too.
Have they met aliens? So what did they discover? When was the original Star Trek airing in comparison to this? I'm just trying to think about the design influences. Like, which one influenced the other? Because there's definitely some similarities. I like that they show us the windows in these shots just to show that, hey, look, we managed to put some live action scenes inside these miniatures.
When we first found it, we thought it might be an outcrop of magnetic rock, but all the geological evidence was against it. Seems to have been deliberately buried.
So what is it? It doesn't sound like... Well, okay, if somebody deliberately buried it, then that's an alien race, but what is it?
No, the only thing we're sure of is it was buried 4 million years ago.
4 million
Well, I must
years.
say, you guys have certainly come up with something.
It's been buried for 4 million years on the moon. The Earth's a lot more uniform than I would expect it to be. But I guess this is before we had man on the moon to send back shots of what it actually looks like. Is it... Yeah. Is it another obelisk? Okay. Okay, I'm seeing how this is tying together. So last time one of these appeared, we invented weapons and murder. What massive leap are we gonna make this time? I mean, obviously the background isn't part of this set, but I feel like everything within the excavation is practical, which is kind of an insanely huge build. And did they say it was giving off huge electromagnetic readings? Touch it, lick it. Well, this sound... Okay, let's pose for a picture. That's the important thing. Oh. Now what? Okay. 18 months later. Is this the huge cultural leap or the huge technological leap forward? We're going to Jupiter? There seems like an order of magnitude larger as far as spaceships, spacecraft. And obviously we're going a lot further. Interesting design. Nice. Very. This is another rotating set. It must be, but... Huh. This is fun. Where is this in the craft, though? Because I didn't see anything rotating in the craft. Is this the supercomputer? I feel like this is HAL. I know about HAL. I know that HAL exists. I like how they've almost made these Escher-like sets, where up isn't always up. Transition to a separate frame there. Yeah, very clever filmmaking. Ugh, I'd have died if this was the evolution of food. BBC 12.
The crew of Discovery 1 consists of 5 men and one of the latest generation of the HAL 9000 computers.
Oh, this food.
Has been used on previous
it's making me nauseous.
This is the first time that
I need texture.
Hibernation before departure. We next spoke with the HAL 9000 computer.
I know that if you take one letter off the letter, or add one letter to H, A, and L, you get I, B, M. I remember that.
You have an enormous responsibility on this mission.
I don't even know why I know that, but I know that.
You're the brain and central nervous system of the ship, and your responsibilities include watching over the men in hibernation. Does this ever cause you any lack of confidence?
The 9000 series is the most reliable computer ever made. We are all, by any practical definition of the words, foolproof and incapable of error.
These guys haven't even talked to each other yet. They're just watching this.
As to whether or not he has real feelings is something I don't think anyone can truthfully answer.
So what else is on this ship if there's only 5 men? Is it all just propulsion? Is it all just engines? Or is there something... Are they... Like, Jupiter is not where you're setting up a colony. Jupiter is a gas giant. There's nowhere to colonize unless you're picking a moon, I suppose.
Hello, Frank.
Happy birthday, darling.
Happy birthday. Many happy returns of the day. Well, Frank, I can't think of anything else to say now.
Give our love today.
Oh, yes, be sure and give him my best regards.
Yep, too far away to have a proper conversation.
Happy
birthday to you.
Happy
birthday, dear Frank. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, Frank.
Thank you, Hal.
Is this a tanning booth? I'm trying to figure out what he's doing on this thing to begin with. Playing chess with the computer seems like
Anyway, queen takes pawn.
A never-win proposition.
Knight's pawn.
I think I might get sick of the routine if I was stuck for a year just in this one compartment. It's an incredible build, though.
Good evening, Dave.
How you doing, Hal?
Everything's running
like this is a practical build.
Well, not
It's
too bad.
really incredible.
Some more work. I've wondered whether you might be having some second thoughts about the mission.
How do you mean?
Perhaps I'm just projecting my own concern about it. Certainly no one could have been unaware of the very strange stories floating around before we left. Rumors about something being dug up on the moon.
So that didn't become public knowledge. So maybe, like, are we going to find out more about that obelisk? Oh, they're just having fun with camera angles. They're definitely having fun with camera angles. That was seamless, but...
Roger, your
plan to go EVA and replace Alpha Echo, a 3-5 unit, prior to failure.
No. I understand EVA, extravehicular activity, going out into space. Oh, the audio is so weird, just hearing his voice, his breath in your ear like that. And yet, when he speaks, it doesn't sound like it's right there. Just hearing the breathing like that. All right. Couple little asteroids, or big asteroids, depending on scale, which there's none. So he's not spacewalking exactly. He just gets in a little mini pod. Even though theoretically this ship is, like the big ship is rocketing along en route to Jupiter. I don't know enough about my Newtonian physics to decide whether this little mini pod would have the same. I feel like as soon as it leaves the ship, it wouldn't be able to keep up. But I'm not positive that makes sense in a essentially zero gravity, zero friction environment like space. Oh, and now he's getting out of the pod. This is fascinating. Why would he exit the pod so far away? Well, for the visuals, obviously. I like that his EVA boots have heels. Is this like Star Trek where red is command and yellow is engineering? I'm just wondering why they have different colored suits. I'll be honest, when the ship was revealed first time, it felt much bigger, and I felt that satellite dish array was much larger than what we're seeing now.
I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this before.
Nothing's wrong with it. Okay.
I would recommend that we put the unit back in operation and let it fail.
Why not just replace it now, if you've got another unit, and you know that one's going to fail?
That our preliminary findings indicate that your onboard 9000 computer is in error predicting the fault.
Yeah, Hal's wrong. One of the computers is mistaken, or has chosen to lie. And presumably, if one of them's chosen to lie, it's going to be this one.
I hope the two of you are not concerned about this.
How would you account for this discrepancy between you and the Twin 9000?
It can only be attributable to human error.
They don't trust their computer crewmate. Nor should they. Hal's acting very suspicious. But is there anywhere they can go to talk without Hal listening in?
Rotate the pod, please, Hal.
He can't hear.
I don't think he can hear us.
I've got a bad feeling about him.
You do?
Yeah.
Still, I can't think of a good reason not to put back the number 1 unit and carry on with the failure mode analysis.
No, I agree about that. If he were proven to be malfunctioning, I wouldn't see how we'd have any choice but disconnection.
Is he eavesdropping?
We'd have to work out the transfer procedures of continuing the mission under ground-based computer control.
It's reading their lips. And they're talking about essentially crippling them mentally. Intermission. All right, we're back to black screen of ambient music. So, the first obelisk, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of French cartoon characters for a second there. The first obelisk kind of presaged not just a jump in human technology, but maybe a jump in human intelligence, thought process. So maybe this obelisk presages the moment of evolution in computer intelligence. Am I reading that right? but it was buried. So, like, is it just a marker, or is it the cause? Were they already planning this Jupiter mission? Because there's like an intervening 18 months between the discovery of this obelisk and this mission. Has this entire mission sort of been precipitated by the discovery, or was it already in the planning and development stages beforehand? It seems like a very quick turnaround to like launch something of this size. I'm not sure how much I like the guy breathing in my ear this much. Yeah, well, that mimics the Earth rising over the moon from the opening shot. A little off angle, but very similar. So now they're just putting the unit back. Is that what we're talking about? Even though it might fail in a few days. Oh. What? What happened exactly? What did Hal do? Hal took control of the little pod, but what did he do?
Do you know what happened?
I'm sorry, Dave. I don't have enough information.
Open the pod door, Hal.
He looks dead. Yeah, something's disconnected there. Is it his air tube, or what did Hal... I mean, Hal killed him. Self-preservation. Self-awareness. Like, no emotional response from this guy. I get that you've got to be a highly trained astronaut, but, like, after that whole conversation with Hal, I feel like you would be showing some anger or fear or what the heckness. How do you... I mean, I guess you can open... Like, if you've got your own helmet, you can bring him into the compartment with you. The sound design of this is fascinating to me. Like, I get that space is silent, but... I mean, the guy in yellow's got to be dead, right? Yeah, it's not moving. That breathing tube or whatever it is pulled. Okay, now don't crush them, but you got them. But I don't know how they filmed that either. Oh, is he killing the guys in cryostasis? Yeah. Yeah. He's killing them. Hal, you evil SOB of a computer. Yeah. Dead, 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 dead. Well, we're spelling it out. Is it all three of them? I think it was. Well, you've got 3 coffins on board now.
Open the pod bay doors, please, Hal. Open the pod bay doors, please, Hal.
I know these lines, and I know what comes next.
Hello, Hal, do you read me?
Do you read me, Hal?
Affirmative, Dave. I read you.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that. I know that you and Frank were planning to disconnect me. And I'm afraid that's something I cannot allow to happen.
I'll go in through the emergency airlock.
Without your space helmet, Dave, we're going to find that rather difficult.
Wow. He's just
Hal?
leaving him out there to
Hal?
die? So we're just letting go of the body again. This is so cold and dispassionate. And I'm not just talking about Hal, although he clearly is too. But I'm getting so little emotional read from Dave. And I mean, Kubrick's deliberate about that in a lot of his movies. I mentioned the same thing in Full Metal Jacket. We're observers in his movies. We're not participants. So what's the new plan? You obviously needed the remote arms for it. Is that the emergency airlock that he doesn't have a helmet for? And are we going to get information about what this mission exactly is about? So he doesn't have his helmet with him. We see it hanging in the pod bay. Now, if there was a smart design, they would have designed these pods so that they would dock tight against this manual airlock. Okay. Blowing the explosive bolts. That's why we showed that on the door before. Yeah. Did he do it? Did he get it done? Okay, the hatch is closed, but is there... Oh, okay. There's atmosphere in there now. Hal's going to be able to mess with you so much still.
Just what do you think you're doing, Dave?
That's like the shakiest Kubrick shot I may have ever seen. That low-angle handheld like that. More heavy ear breathing.
Everything hasn't been quite right with me. It's going to be all right again.
This angle's fascinating.
I feel much better now.
Hal's begging for his life. But I feel like...
Look, Dave, I can see you're really upset about this.
Doesn't Hal still have, like...
I think you ought to sit down calmly.
Complete environmental control?
Take a stress pill and think things over.
Take a chill pill, dude. This angle is fascinating.
I've made some very poor decisions recently.
We're inside Hal. Fascinating.
Dave, stop. I'm afraid. My mind is going.
Well, 6 didn't come out. Is that just a glitch in the prop? Or is that intentional? Yeah, he's not pulling them all. But there's some irregularity here.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Nope.
I am a HAL 9000 computer.
He's been restarted. Rebooted.
I can sing it for you.
Oh, tone of voice changing.
I'd like to hear it, Hal. It's called Daisy. Daisy, Daisy. It won't be a stylish marriage, but you look
Good day, gentlemen. This is a pre-recorded briefing, known on board during the mission, only by your HAL 9000 computer.
Uh-oh.
18 months ago, the first evidence of intelligent life off the Earth was discovered.
So the first one was aimed from Earth to the moon, and then the one on the moon pointed to Jupiter. And then maybe they're looking for the next one on Jupiter. But only Hal knew that. And now Hal's dead. But Hal didn't like the mission? Is that what... Like, why would he kill the crew? Why would he be suspicious? What was it about Hal... About the mission that Hal didn't like? Oh, is that a monolith right there? Just floating in space? Are these just like... pointers to an alien life? Is that what they're calling the monoliths are? Oh, these coral bits are so unsettling. Like, they're not beautiful, they're not creepy, they're just alien. And this is just a big old black door. Like, it's a different shape, and it's just floating in space. Like, what the heck? So is Dave still alive? What now? And all these moons of Jupiter just lining up. Or was that the sun and all the planets? Scale's hard sometimes. What? There's... This is kind of terrifying and crazy. And this is blowing my mind that they did this in camera. This is practical camera work. Obviously tons of multiple exposures. But, so did he just sort of find, like, hyperspace or something? Or what exactly happened? It's certainly giving the impression of ultra speed, but it's also just trippy. Oh, these weird cuts to almost these like freeze frames of him like looking all askance and scared. Yeah. What the heck? Man, the late 60s. I don't think anyone would make this movie today without a narrator and a ton of exposition. Oh, that looks like a deep sea creature. What on earth? What on earth is going on? Ooh, pardon me. Oh, there's an alien face in there. Or maybe I'm just seeing things. This feels a little bit like the quantum realm in Ant-Man. Or I don't know what. Man, this is fun with lava lamps or something. It feels like we're looking through a microscope at some weird organic stuff too. We're discovering like what is going on? What on earth? Well, no, I mean clearly not on Earth, except maybe some of the like, I don't know what we're seeing. You know, you put something dark on the ground and blue at the horizon and in the sky, it almost feels like a landscape, but then that's the first vaguely, yeah, here we go, back to recognizable. Yeah, so some super weird exposures, you know, almost negative-like, but what's it all about? I've lost the plot. I keep waiting for more information, whether it's dialogue or something to reference or something, but I've just, like, it's begun to feel like a video that's just sort of playing in the background in a nightclub, because there is no plot. You don't need to know what's going on, it's just crazy imagery. Okay. Now what? What? So confused. Let's put the pod in a bedroom in a really nice home. That's the guy that died. No. That's him, but old? How long was he in there? Is he... what is going on, man? What the heck? Yeah, like, I'm not imagining it. He's aged, right? It's weird because the breathing we hear doesn't seem synced with the action we're seeing. And I know we only ever hear the breathing when we see a guy in the suit and we want to see the scene by, quote, his perspective, but it feels somehow disjointed. Who is this? What the heck is going on? I have a high tolerance for suspension of disbelief and, like, just going with the flow, but I need to know what's going on. What on earth? Am I imagining it, or is that him too? He thought he heard something, but now nothing's there? What? Has he been taken to another alien world and this is what they provided to him? This is how he lives for the rest of his life? Now we're hearing the breathing again. Now he's seeing himself even older. What is... What does it mean? And now he's an embryo again. Is that what that's supposed to be? I think so. This is all in camera. I have to remember that none of this is CG. This is all practical. Remember that out of focus early human profile we saw on the right side of the screen when the first obelisk monolith appeared and all the 8 men were surrounding it? That was kind of matched by this embryo on the left. So this is the next stage of human evolution. But indeed. Special note of those in the credits. That's interesting. Special photographic effects. Well, there we go, guys. The end of 2001, The Space Odyssey. There's a lot to unpack there. And I don't even really know where to start, because we could go straight into the technical aspects, and it's a masterpiece. It's visually stunning. The production design is impeccable. It's incredibly clever in the way it's physically shot. You know, they had to create all these probably quite revolutionary sets when they were created back in the 60s. Revolving sets with fixed camera positions to mimic, these, rotating space stations or anti-gravity, etc., etc. And all of that's incredibly clever, really, really well done, and visually really interesting. But if the first thing you're talking about in a movie is how it looks and how it was made, then I feel like something's missing. Because I feel like the first thing you should be talking about when you've seen a movie for the first time is the story. film is visual storytelling, and if you're not telling a story, then it's not a movie. It's something else. It's a moving. I don't know how to describe it, but if there's no story, then it's not a movie. And yes, no, don't get me wrong. There is a story here, but it's not the first thing you're talking about, and it's a confusing story, and it's in a way, it's really hard to have a discussion about this story, given that this is my first time watching the movie and watching all the way through and trying to wrap my head around the plot, because it feels like the type of story that really needs to be dissected, analyzed, debated. What does it all mean? It's clearly, it's a great departure from the vast majority of modern cinema, which, well, often open to mystery and debate, spells out the plot. It shows you what's happening. It tells you what's happening. It may not tell you the why. Details may be hidden from us, the audience, etc. But there's still a plot to follow. There may be confusion. It may be intentional. But I feel like there were large sections of this movie where, specifically once we got to Jupiter, where plot went out the window, and it became a visual exercise entirely. And then you also have to talk about pacing. And I get that Kubrick wants to show the full range of these special camera effects that he and his team developed. And especially when you realize this is 1968. This is all shot in camera. There's no computer effects involved here. This is all done on film with camera trickery and technique. He wants to show that off, and understandably so. But at some point, I feel like you spend so much time showing that off that you're pulling us away from the story. You're introducing too much confusion to the audience. And unless the audience is particularly enraptured by the visuals of what they're seeing, which became repetitive, then you really risk losing the audience. Now, I know a lot of people who recommended this film told me this is a masterpiece, and yes, visually it is, but storytelling, I'm not so sure. I feel like there needed to be more meat on the bone, or a little bit more explanation at the end, because I lost. Like, if you've watched my reactions to other shows, I am comfortable with not necessarily knowing everything that's going on, but I like getting clues. I like being given enough clues that I can maybe piece it together myself, but I don't feel like there were any clues being doled out until the very end, that sort of sequence of seeing himself older and older and older and older, and then there's an embryo, and we're back at the moon, but no resolution at all, and no real clear definition of plot beyond the video being played on the ship right after Dave turns Hal off. I thought this was a movie that was going to be sort of a cautionary tale about artificial intelligence or something like that, but then that kind of got resolved at the end of Act 2, and then Act 3, there may not have been a line of dialogue. So yes, while it was a visually stunning movie, I'm underwhelmed by the story it was trying to convey, and I apologize for that. I want to like everything I watch, especially on this channel, and I don't I don't say what I'm saying lightly, especially when there is a great deal of so much technical merit attached to it. But I find some of Kubrick's choices really confusing, and maybe we just have a very different aesthetic about what film can and should be. But I don't feel Kubrick's films... Kubrick doesn't want you to identify with any of his characters. He wants you to be an observer, not a participant. Most directors and most stories draw you in by putting you in the shoes of a character. And then you identify and your emotions develop, and Kubrick's very good at preventing that from happening. It's a conscious decision of his, and some of it has to do with these very static frames where we're rarely moving with the character. If the camera ever is moving, it's often moving opposite a character and at very weird angles. Like when we finally did go handheld on the ship with Dave as he was making his way to Hal's control center to turn everything off, we were very low and uncomfortable, and clearly while we were following Dave, we were not with Dave, we were watching Dave. It's hard to put to words exactly, but I think you get a sense of that when you watch that. So yeah, Kubrick doesn't want you to identify with the characters. He wants you to watch his characters. So he's, in a sense, giving himself a disadvantage right from the beginning because he's not tying the audience in. Now, by making you an observing audience as opposed to a participating audience, perhaps you are more open to appreciating the beauty of the frame, the objective sights and sounds that you're hearing. It's very rational and composed, and Kubrick really focuses on maintaining that aesthetic, but it doesn't necessarily lend itself well to storytelling. I don't know, man. So like the part of me that really appreciates the technique of filmmaking really appreciates this. The part of me that appreciates storytelling is really wanting more. And those two parts of me are kind of butting heads right now. You know, I'm having this internal debate, and I don't know what side I'm falling on. Obviously, I much prefer a movie where both sides of my film fandom are appreciative of the film. When only one of, you know, when you find something where you love the story but it was made quite poorly, you know, the story sticks with you more than the movie does. And when you're presented with something like this, where I think the visuals, the technique are what you're reminded of, you know, perhaps it lends itself better to dissection and study and appreciation, but I wouldn't necessarily go, oh, I really want to watch all of 2001 again. You know, maybe I would, you know, dig into, you know, a particular scene, how they shot that, you know, or going into film theory about, you know, what exactly do the obelisks represent and signify, and what exactly was going on in that final act. But it becomes a more academic appreciation than something that hits you in the gut and in the heart. I always say I'd love to hear your comments below, but I would really love to hear your comments below, because I feel like this might be a really divisive movie. Some people might really, really appreciate it, and others might be quite underwhelmed, and I'd really love to hear what you love so much about this movie, what drives you nuts about this movie, where you stand on it, where you stand on Kubrick in general. If you're a film fan and there's something like, try and convince me otherwise. I'm open to discussion and debate on this sort of stuff. So, yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I really, really would. And let me know if I should be watching more Kubrick. Maybe there are other Kubrick films that I haven't yet seen where I will identify more with a character than I have in the past with some of his stuff. But yeah, thank you guys for hanging out with me today on this journey. It's been a really interesting one, an eye-opening one. I can tick this box off on my must-watch list, if nothing else. So until next time, everybody, take care, stay healthy, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.